Biden? Was he a leftist socialist? Is that what you were
He
thinking?
governed like one.
Sure.
He was the biggest persuasion of all time. He
Pennsylvania.
campaigned like a moderate and governed like Bernie
What did
Sanders,
you-
and now he's out on his ass.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Americans are saying.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Moderates? What moderate is in your party?
What are you talking about?
Who is the most moderate member of your party?
Any member of the Democratic Party that's that's not pro-choice, because you guys don't require or allow anybody to be pro-choice or to be pro-life in your party.
I'm pretty sure.
It's the same votes.
Nancy Pelosi called it, quote, Armageddon.
In 2017.
She called it Armageddon. Now you're saying they won't. It's more ideologically diverse than it's ever been in my lifetime. It's more racially diverse, and it's more diverse across, different segments of our...
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this segment. I actually like this one, but there were points that just weren't made that should have been made. Scott tried to say how they're becoming more racially diverse and diverse of thought. This was incredible. Check this out and we'll talk about it.
Is the nation's center collapsing? Gridlock in Washington is certainly nothing new, but the drivers of this era seem to be the extremes of each party, while the moderates are not just taking a back seat, but getting off the highway altogether. The battle over Donald Trump's mega bill is a good illustration of this. Both Republicans and Democrats sounded the alarm that it will kick millions off their health care, among other things. But for anyone who dared to speak up, they faced the wrath of the president and his MAGA allies. That includes Republican Tom Tillis, who spoke out against the bill and promptly announced that he's calling it quits. Tillis took aim at his colleagues, saying, quote, "In Washington, over the last few years, it's become increasingly evident that leaders who are willing to embrace bipartisanship, compromise, and demonstrate independent thinking are becoming an endangered species. Too many elected officials are motivated by pure, raw politics who really don't give a damn about the people they promise to represent." Now, Tillis joins the ranks of disgusted lawmakers like Arizona's Jeff Flake, Utah's Mitt Romney, and Ohio's Rob Portman, all of whom bowed out as tribal politics have taken over Washington. These mega bills, first of all, mega bills that are straight down party lines are now the thing that Washington does. And in this moment, when you do have some Republicans who are airing their grievances, raising some concerns, they're not being courted, right? Like, they're not being talked to. They're just being told, stop talking. Like, we're gonna pass this thing anyway.
Well, in the negotiations over the big, beautiful bill going back months in the House, Speaker Johnson had to negotiate among different factions. That also happened with Thune over in the Senate. I mean, ultimately, what they had to vote on was one big, beautiful bill, but that ignores that they had all this back and forth amongst themselves over a long period of time. The other thing I would say is that I think in the Republican coalition right now, it's more ideologically diverse than it's ever been in my lifetime. It's more racially diverse, and it's more diverse across, different segments of our population. And that's why you have everybody from RFK to Rand Paul to, Mitch McConnell all in the same party. This is an elastic party, and Trump's administration reflects that. So I don't guess I agree that one narrow extreme dictates what happens in the party when you look at the elasticity and the ideological diversity in the GOP.
Yeah, and only two of those people you named, Donald Trump's trying to drive out the party. I mean, there are no Republican moderates. This phenomenon that you're talking about, Abby, it's a Republican phenomenon. There is a wide ideological diversity in the Democratic caucus. You have everyone from AOC, Zohran Mamdani to Joe Manchin in the Democratic Big Tent. The Republicans are the one that, particularly in the last 15 years, they have really driven out any kind of diversity. There's only purity in the Republican caucus. I worked actually in Congress when there were Republican moderates, where the Bob Corkers and the Jeff Flakes and Bob Bennett of Utah, people like that. I literally served with those people. They would not fit in this Republican Party. I'm not sure if they're Democrats, but they darn sure aren't Republicans.
You think Joe Manchin's still a Democrat? I mean, he had to leave Congress because he didn't fit in with the far left fringe, did he not?
I think he is. He actually was the author of the latest major Democratic legislation a couple years ago.
A couple of years ago, good point.
I mean, I think
The argument, guys, that's what I think of when I think Republicans, is diversity. Are you effing kidding me? And I keep hearing this stupid argument. Guys, Republicans who voted for Trump, 8 out of 10 of them were white people. In his first term, it was in the high 80s. This time around, it was like in the mid 80s, I think. I wonder why that is. couldn't be because of the things that Republicans say about people of color, different religions or backgrounds. No, couldn't be that. You're the party of diversity, right? In fact, the Democrats, 70% of their voters are either black, Latino, or Asian. I wonder why that is. With close to 30% being white. Doesn't that sound a lot more diverse? I don't know. Maybe it could be that they don't call them DEI hires or saying things like Mandami, a Muslim man who may be mayor of New York City, will cause another 9/11, putting a burqa on the Statue of Liberty. How about the Jews will not replace us? And the salutes you guys love to do. Which, by the way, Jews voted around 70% for Democrats. I wonder why that is. Supposedly the left has this rampant anti-Semitism problem. Why is it that they vote such high numbers on the left, Scotty? We can keep going on with the things your party does that's just so welcoming and diversity filled. Dude, your party is filled to the brim of people who truly lost any sense of logic or reasoning or critical thinking. These are cult members. The rest are people who completely agree with the things Trump say and are just as bigoted and as cruel as he is. That's your diversity.
The obvious example here is Tom Tillis, right? And let's be candid. What happened with Tom Tillis? Tom Tillis basically said in his own words that this legislation that the Senate considered was going to hurt over 600,000 North Carolinians. It was going to take health care away from 600,000 North Carolinians. And the choice he faced, honestly, let's just be candid, was to stay a Republican, run for office, and hurt his constituents, or give up his political interests and put his constituents first. And, you know, I actually think the truth is that there was bipartisan opposition in the Senate to the big, beautiful bill because people like Tom Tillis recognized that protecting his constituents came first. And that's the tragedy of the Republican Party today, which is, unfortunately, people have to make this trade-off, and too many are choosing their political careers over the people they serve.
I'm kind of stuck on what Scott was saying about the Republican Party being from RFK Jr., which I think doesn't really apply on fiscal issues. It's really in this narrow lane of health quackery.
Conspiracies.
But also Rand Paul, Tom Massey, Trump wants to run them out. Like, Trump has actively said he wants to kick Tom Massey out of office because Massey is too vocal about his opposition to some of these policy issues. I think that is not really a reflection of an elastic party, to be frank.
I don't know. I mean, I go to what Scott said in terms of the negotiations that happen. You have a caucus called the Governing Majority Caucus, and that's what then their whole deal was SALT and the SALT issue, and they got that increase. That was their #1 battle that went on. And that's what members do. And look, members come, members go, and their reasons for leaving, that's what happens in Congress all the time. And so we may have a couple that are leaving here. Joe Manchin left on his own. But I mean, and I go to what Joel said. I mean, you're saying our party is, I mean, you guys have now a socialist in New York City, and then AOC, and then Bernie. That your party's heading exactly to the far left. So where is the wiggle room in your party? Is there any member of the Democratic Party that's that's not pro-choice? Because you guys don't require or allow anybody to be pro-choice or to be pro-life in your party.
I'm pretty sure that Tim Kaine and Joe Biden have very diverse views on abortion.
Bob Casey.
Oh, my Lord.
Bob Casey.
Yeah, but more.
Two people are gone. You know, Joe
but
Biden
more,
and Tim Joe Manchin.
Okay, fine. But more broadly, I mean, this idea of
No, not fine. The absolute horror to allow women not to be forced to have a baby by someone who's raped. What sounds more extreme to you? The party that wants you to force you to have that baby or not? Oh, the horror to allow women to control their bodies. So extreme. They mentioned Mamdani. He's so extreme, guys. He wants to give people free bus rides that cost about $2. You know, so they can go and to and from work. And maybe even lower traffic as more people take the bus. So extreme. Sounds so out of this world, right? Make richer neighborhoods pay higher taxes and the wealthy in general by only 2 tiny, measly percentage points. So extreme. Unbelievable.
Republicans, like the only thing that Republicans really have in common right now, this political era that we're in right now, is self-loathing. They are forcing themselves to vote for this terrible piece of legislation, and the only thing that unites them, more important than anywhere on the ideological spectrum, is fear and fealty to Donald Trump.
Democrats are having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that we're taking all of their voters, working class Americans, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, working class Americans all over this country who heretofore have almost uniformly voted Democrat en masse, came towards the Republican Party last November, and Trump did win the national popular vote because of it. It is an ideologically diverse party because of all of our new constituents.
I think the Republican voter base is slightly more diverse. I do not think elected Republicans are more diverse, and you're going to pay a price for that at the ballot.
Well,
Also,
what he's
if you
saying,
look at-
though, is worth contemplating, though. I mean, the party has, in the last election, they have, peeled off some Democratic-leaning voters at the same time that, according to a Gallup poll, the parties are actually moving to the extreme. So among Republicans, those who call themselves conservative have gone from conservative or very conservative, gone from 58% in '94 to 77%. That's among liberals. That's also happening, but to a much lesser extent.
Lesser degree. It's gone from 25 to 50.
Yeah, so it's a much
which
lesser.
has we have more
but-
moderates in the Democratic
but
Party.
Americans are
I mean, I'm
saying.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Moderates? What moderate is in your party?
What are you talking about?
Who is the most moderate member of your party in the Congress
Jared
right now?
Golden?
I mean, Jared Golden, Maria Teresa Glusenkamp. These are
Oh,
people
my
who are
goodness
winning
gracious.
Republican districts. They
Okay.
have districts that are Republican, a majority
You
Republican.
gonna
They're
nominate a
winning.
moderate for president in 28?
Yes, I think we may well nominate a. Joe Biden, was he a leftist socialist? Is that what you were
He
thinking?
governed like one.
Sure.
He was the biggest
Oh,
Peyton
yeah,
situation
yeah.
of all time. He
Pennsylvania.
campaigned like a
What a
moderate and
joke.
governed like Bernie
What a
Sanders,
joke.
and now he's out on his ass.
Okay, I'm just saying, seems like a big ideological difference between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. But I think the point.
He's just the most unlikable person. I thought it was Ted Cruz, but it may just be him. How insufferable with these faces, like he's an 8-year-old. There's something wrong with this guy. Is he saying that because Biden was a socialist is why he's not around anymore, or moderate? Like, I don't even know what he's talking about. I thought it had to do with his age. I mean, the guy has cancer now. This man has no decency.
Point
Not
I'd
in
make
policy.
is just as where are we today? You're right about the voters that moved to Donald Trump, and those are the voters who are right now raising the largest scale concerns. What's Trump's support amongst Latinos? It has collapsed. What is Trump's support amongst Asians? It has collapsed. What is Trump's support amongst young people? It has collapsed. He had a promise to those people that he would focus on the cost of living in this legislation in this legislation. The real issue here is that the people who are going to bear the burden of this are working class people. And that is, I think, a real question for Republicans
All
going
right,
forward.
so now, Lance, I need you to respond to that point specifically. Trump has strayed from what he said was an election that was about cost of living. And even his promises on immigration, according to the polling, have gone farther than a lot of Americans would like it to go. So is there a risk here that even though there was a coalition that came together to elect him, he has left that coalition by focusing on ideological purity test priorities?
Well, I don't know how you can say that when he's just keeping campaign promises. Let's go to the immigration issue. The border is shut down. No one is coming across the border. 4 years, 12 million illegal immigrants pouring across this border. Within 6 months, Donald Trump has it shut down. That's keeping campaign promises. When does that ever happen in
Yeah,
this
but
country?
Is it keeping
the part
the
that
campaign promise to say over and over again, you won't touch Medicaid, and then you take
No.
$1 trillion from Medicaid? Oh, I'm sorry, and just in the last few days, saying this legislation shouldn't touch Medicaid, and it absolutely does?
So-
Is that keeping a promise? That's not keeping a promise. Or is it, I'm going
I'm
to
just
lower
talking
the
about
cost of
immigration.
everything?
I'm happy to get to the big-
lower
I'm
the
happy to get
cost
to
of
that.
everything. I'm going to lower the cost of everyday goods, and then you
Well,
put
so-
tariffs on people. Who pays those
So
tariffs? Working class
here's
people.
essentially what the Democrats are going to vote for whenever this bill, whatever happens with it. They're essentially saying, let's raise the income tax back up to where it was
not.
pre the.
No, they're not.
Yes, it's
in fact,
absolutely what it is.
Democrats have offered
Let's
amendment
not
after
give-
amendment to keep the tax cuts for working class people and just not for the billionaires. And Republicans have voted against that multiple times.
You
That
talk-
was multiple votes over this weekend where Democrats said, let's do all the tax cuts for middle class people. Let's do all the tax cuts for people under $1 million. Let's do all the tax cuts for $5 million. Republicans voted no on each
Nero,
of those
did
amendments.
any Democrat?
Kamala ran on taxing people above 400K, and they completely freaked out. And they're talking about immigration. Yeah, that Hispanic support is dropping like a rock, and I'm a wait and see type of person. And that's the only group that Trump really gained with, is these dumbass Hispanic male Trump supporters as an Hispanic. And I mentioned this before, and I'm sure some of them voted because of inflation, but I bet a lot of them didn't like that she was black and a woman. Two negatives for a lot of Hispanics out there that no one seems to talk about. It was mainly the Hispanic men that Trump won over. Close to 70% of Hispanic women voted for Harris.
Democrats vote for the 2017 tax rates when they came up the first time?
Of course not.
They did not.
Of
In
course
fact, they
not.
called it.
It's the same votes.
Nancy Pelosi called it, quote, Armageddon.
In 2017,
She called it Armageddon. Now you're saying they want these tax rates. So which is it?
No, in 2017 they offered. The same thing happened. 2017.
You're
they
whistling
offered
past the
amendments.
graveyard on
no,
this.
I'm not.
You want higher
might-
taxes. We
you
want
might
lower
wanna say
taxes.
that.
It's been that way for time
we're
immemorial.
fighting for tax cuts for the middle class, and the fact
That's what
is,
we did.
No, essentially,
You talked
here's
about
the
working
deal. No, let me
people.
say.
What about no
hold on,
tax
hold
on tips?
Here's the deal.
Lance, just give her a second.
Here's
Let her
the
finish
deal.
the thought. Then you can have a thought, and then we got to.
This legislation takes health care from 17 million people.
No.
17 million people will have fewer people will have health care after this. $1 trillion for Medicaid in order to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. You could actually just do the middle class tax cuts and not the tax cuts for billionaires, and just not do the Medicaid tax cuts and Medicaid cuts.
You know
and
what?
people would have agreed with that. That would have been 60, 70%.
We're never going to agree
and
to
you
give.
didn't want
We're
to do
never
that,
going to agree to
'cause
give
we
Medicaid
support-
to illegal aliens. And
It's
we're never
not
gonna,
illegal
and we're never
aliens.
going to
It's not
agree
illegal
to let
aliens.
people
You know
sit
that.
at home,
It's
able-bodied
not-
people.
See,
You don't have to
people,
take
it's
Mira's
not-
word on that. Take Josh Hawley's word on it. I
Exactly.
mean,
He
Josh,
voted for it.
Josh,
I know, but he
yes,
said it
while
was a tax
apologizing
on
to his
work. Yes.
constituents. Take Lisa Murkowski's word
Also
on
voted
it.
for
Or
it.
Collins.
Okay, who
Or
apologized
Collins.
to the
you know what?
American
And
people for
Scott,
voting for
Scott,
it. Because it's terrible legislation.
whenever you bring up the able-bodied folks and undocumented immigrants, we're only getting to like 6 million. So you have like a whole other.
There's
6
also
million.
people who are
12 million.
duplicative.
You
They're
know,
on in multiple
according to
states, and
different,
there are also
depending
people
on the
who are
estimates.
ineligible for other
I'm just saying, there are millions and millions of other people that you're not accounting for, and those people are going to be affected.
Children are going to lose
They are going to be affected. So I think some of this is about honesty in advertising here with what's
I agree.
going on.
I don't
in
think she
Capitol
should be
Hill.
dishonest about it.
You're
What's going on
right.
on Capitol
You're
Hill,
right
and
about it.
and if the Medicaid cuts are the price that Americans have to pay for tax cuts for everybody, including very wealthy people, then that should be what Republicans run on proudly. Okay? Up next for us, he is threatening everything.
That's all he does, Scott. He just nods his head. Yeah, why couldn't we just increase taxes on the rich and decrease it for everyone else? They have no answers for that. Oh, immigrants. Like, these people are truly insane. And I actually like this segment, but this constant equivocation of the extremes on the left and right, I just find laughable, insane. What the hell is so extreme on the left? Somebody has to tell me this. Oh, is it the LGBTQ? People should be treated like every other person in this country? So extreme that should we be treating them as subhuman, right? That's less extreme? Or is it DEI? Yeah, that's so woke, right? To open up opportunities to work or education or whatever for a bigger pool of people, and not just go after the same people from the same locations and the same backgrounds over and over. So extreme, right? Like, I don't know what the F they're talking about when they say the extremes of the left. What are the extremes? I think the extremes are that the taxes stop going up after 600K. So people who make 6 million, 60 million, 6 billion pay the same tax rate as someone who makes 600K. Why does the tax rate just stop going up? The tax brackets? Why is there not a tax bracket for someone making 6 million, 10 million and up? Like, doesn't that seem more extreme to you? That everything we're doing is to cater to 1% of the population, 5% of the population? Like, this is unbelievable. And I need to stop saying that word because someone in the comments has made me subconscious about it. They say that it reminds them of, if you've seen the movie Princess of the Bride, and the guy that says inconceivable. But now they got me subconscious on that word. But anyways, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Please leave a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel, really helps get the message out there. And I'll catch you in the next one.